Hello everyone, RogueWatson here, freelance writer, player of games, writer of words, and recorder of videos. Welcome to my board game video review series, RogueWatson Reviews. With this video, we're going to be taking a look at Kingdomino. Kingdomino was designed by Bruno Cathala and published by Blue Orange Games in 2016. It's a 2 to 4 player Eurogame twist on the classic game of dominoes. It's a small box game with glossy, high-quality tiles that's simple to teach and quick to play. It won the prestigious Spiel des Jahres Board Game Award in 2017 and was followed up with the slightly more complex Queendomino sequel later that year. Let's take a look at the game. There are 3 main components to Kingdomino, though one of them, which are these little 3D castles, are really just pure aesthetic, and they serve as the player's starting tiles along with the literal starting tiles. You can just use these. The castles are kind of nice. You can put your little meeple figures in there, but the bulk of the box is made up of 48 rectangular domino tiles. Take a look at some of these tiles here. So obviously, instead of the numbers that you would find in a normal game of dominoes, you've got these pastoral medieval terrain pieces, such as forests, wheat, there's mines or caves, and water, grass, pastures. They kind of depict this nice little, and this is kind of why I went with Eurogame, because you've got the meeples and you've got this very much medieval looking landscape, although it does tease kind of a fantasy world. And so instead of matching your numbers together, each player matches the terrain pieces together in order to create a 5x5 plot of land. Everybody cannot go bigger than a 5x5 square. These tiles are really, really nice looking. They're very, very thick cardboard pieces, and they have a glossy laminate shine, which I'm hoping comes through on the video here. But this really, really nice, smooth pieces. Obviously, this is the main primary part of the game, so it's very, I mean, you can see the light like just reflecting off of them. That looks really nice. And there's a lot of really nice little bits of detail in here that on each tile piece, these are not just repeated ad nauseum. But you can see they even connect the pieces together, because they would be, they're 2 separate squares. Occasionally they double up. Let's see, like here, obviously there's like a double, you'd have like the domino double number. This is just a double forest. And here's what I'm talking about with the fantasy. You can see there's like a little adventure figure fighting a giant spider in this forest, which is just really neat. So I really like this. I like that it hints that there's like a fantasy world here. There's, I believe, shadows of like dragons overhead and sea monsters on some of these tiles. Just a really neat, and they look nice when they're all built up, which I'll show that later on. So players select their tiles by drafting these meeples. There are 2 meeples provided per player, so per color, 4 players total, so 8 meeples. But you only use 2 meeples in the 2-player game. In the 3 or 4-player game, you're only going to use 1 meeple per person, and players place their meeple on the tile they want, because you organize the tiles by descending order with the number they have on the back. So let's say we have a 4-player game. We draw these tiles, and you look on the back, and you would organize them from lowest number to highest. Oops, I know my numbers. Just like that. And then you would flip them over. And what tends to happen, and the way it's balanced, is that the more valuable tiles are usually going to be placed near the bottom, whereas the less valuable tiles will be placed at the top, and then players will take turns drafting their meeple on whichever tiles they want for that next round. And they do it in the order in which they were placed here, so whoever placed their meeple on the top tile would be able to go next on the next round. If it's the first round, then you literally just shake them up in your hands and put them out, whatever. The first round's kind of a crapshoot. And you just keep going like that until the last tile is drawn, and then players have hopefully completed their board. Now, endgame scoring is easy to grasp, but it does take a bit of kind of math gymnastics. You score 1 victory point for each adjacent similar tile times the number of crowns in that tile. So for an example, if this was our, let's say this was our board, which would be, I believe, legal because you've got this wheat land everywhere, we would get, let's move him out of the way. So the wheat would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tiles times 1 crown. That's 5 points. This space is just a 1 with 1 crown, 1 point. That's 1 point, and this is 0 points. And you just picture having a 5 by 5 grid of that, which again I'll show later on in this video, and that's how your endgame scoring looks. You would do that for each different zone, sum total, final score. So let's look at a sample round of Kingdomino. Alright, so here we've set up a 3-player game. We're a few rounds in. I believe there's 4 tiles for each player, and you can notice that you can place your starting castle really anywhere within that imaginary 5 by 5 board. You can put it on a corner, you can put it right in the middle. It's whatever works for you, and that starting tile does act as a wild square, so you can attach anything to that. But once you start expanding, then the rule applies where you can only attach at least one similar terrain piece to a previous one. So for example, for right here, if this had been the most recent piece, you can go here because this wheat touches at least one other existing wheat. The other piece obviously doesn't have to match, and that's how you kind of end up building your kingdom. So as I said, we're in the middle of a round, which means for this purposes, our players have already drafted this round right now, and then I will reveal. So let's say this was the current order, and kind of in the middle of a turn right now, but again, it makes sense because otherwise I have to show the very beginning, and I wanted to show kind of these pieces already built out. But I would draw 3 more tiles for a 3-player game and put them in order. So 22 would go first. Let's move these a little over, and normally obviously you wouldn't have all these right together because you have to make space for a 5 by 5 player board for everyone, but we're trying to fit everything on this video. So this, essentially you get to see the next lineup of tiles after you've selected this lineup, which means pink gets to go first because they have selected the top tile, and then they also, as they place this piece, get to then be the first to pick on the next draft. So we look at pink's board. What is pink going for? Well, we could add more forest, but right now there's no crowns. It's not worth any points, so we really need a crown on the forest. However, right now we do have a crown in the water, so we probably do want to attach the water. We could go like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, we couldn't. Math is hard. We could go like this, because again, you have to count spaces in any direction, can't go beyond 5. Or we could go like this. That actually probably make it a little trickier. So let's go right here. I think that's a good move for pink. And then pink gets to choose the next one to go. So unfortunately, there's no forest with a crown, but there is a wheat field with a crown, and pink knows I can't let blue get more wheat fields because they're starting to get a big territory right there. So he's going to place it there. Next is green player's turn. Green can place this one, and it looks like we could double up here by putting it right here. I'm going to have to move this whole thing up slightly. Don't explode, earthquake. And you can see here that actually is really beneficial for both the water zone and the forest zone, because now that forest is worth 1, 2, 3, 4 times 1 is 4, and now 2 times 1 is 2. So I just bolstered all those points with that one. And furthermore, this tile would be really great because now that I could add a crown to my huge pasture land, as well as giving me more water territory. So green's thinking, heck yeah, I'm going there next. It works great. Now is blue's turn, and blue is going to be stuck with this piece, which is still pretty good. I mean, a double crown is fantastic. Nobody has any swamps, so blue could be going, well, maybe I can go for some swamps. And at the same time, I do already have that pasture, so maybe we can go right here and hope to attach swamps going this way in the future. Oh, look, you guys left me a swamp. So nice. So you can see this is how you form the next round. And then I would pull another 3 tiles out of the box, place them here, and it would just go like that until everybody has, in theory, had enough rounds or tiles, and it scales depending on the number of players. That's how many tiles you play with, to be able to build a 5 by 5 grid. Now, it can happen, and will happen, that somebody cannot actually finish their 5 by 5 grid, because at that point they've gone to the edge, and like if this was my last space and I didn't get something with either a pasture or water on it, I would not be able to place that here, so I would just be out that space. So that is obviously a real challenge. You definitely want to be able to plan for the future, and that's just part of the fun of the game. So that is how the game plays. Kingdomino does a brilliant job re-implementing dominoes in a modern era of tabletop gaming. On the surface, it looks similar to a Carcassonne tile-laying game, and players do end up creating both cohesive and chaotic little slices of this brightly colored fantasy world. But underneath, it's basically just a prettier, more engaging version of dominoes. Now, I'm not saying that to bring the game down. That's a real positive because it makes Kingdomino very easy to teach and grasp, even for young kids. My 6-year-old can play this game. The box suggests 8 and up, and she needs a lot of help with the end-game scoring for my wife and I because it does get quite complicated into some higher numbers. But it is not a common game that I can enjoy with my immediate family, my extended family, and my circle of gaming friends. So let's go over my quick pros and cons for Kingdomino.
Pro. For such a small box game, Kingdomino features impressively high quality art and components. The tiles are thick, sturdy, and glossy, and the wooden meeples and little 3D castles are a nice touch. Pro. The quick turns and drafting scale well for 2 to 4 players, and there's also a neat 2-player variant where you each use all of the tiles to create massive 7x7 boards for some really high scores. Pro. The back of the manual breaks down the number of tile types to help with future planning and optimization, which is especially helpful when teaching basic strategy to new players. Con. I really had to reach to come up with any criticisms for Kingdomino, but endgame scoring can get a bit tricky. It's not exactly 7 wonders, but math is not my strong suit.
Final thoughts. Offering a fun twist on the dominoes formula, Kingdomino has lovely art, sturdy components, and breezy gameplay, providing the perfect small box game experience. Thank you to everyone for watching this video review. For more news, reviews, and previews on board games, video games, and tabletop RPGs, you can check out my website at RogueWatson.com, as well as right here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.